today on the 01581, Westboro Small Business Recovery ARPA Grant Program, and an update on the FY25 budget. Hi, and welcome back to this episode of the 01581 Let's Talk. I'm joined by our Economic Development Coordinator, Mark Zepf.
Good morning, Shelby. How are we doing?
Good. Thanks so much for joining me. So you are here to talk to Westboro and to me about our small business recovery program. So, and I know we've got some slides here to help with the conversation. So. What's the program about?
Well, thank you very much for having me in.
Sure.
I'm very excited to be here for this. This program has been probably 2 years in the works through the local Rapid Recovery Program. I have to remember all my acronyms there.
Also known as LRRP.
Yes,
right?
LRRP,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
Coming out of COVID, talking with businesses in town, what we kept hearing was there was a financial crisis. Everyone as small business owners know where they were struggling, and it was paying all those everyday bills, not necessarily the big stuff. It was just, sometimes it was electrical bill or paying an employee or whatever it might be, or having an additional employee to really kind of make the difference in their recovery. So the Economic Development Committee, as part of the LRP, created this grant program, and it's really fantastic, and we're one of the few towns in the region that's actually offering cash to businesses to help them get their back on their feet. There's lots of programs, but really it's to be eligible, all we ask is that this program, it's a $5,000 grant, up to $5,000 grant, to be used to anything towards your recovery of your business. To be eligible, we ask that you be located in Westboro, show a negative impact during the pandemic. So we want to see that if you made $10,000 last year, you made $9,000 this year, that's a loss, so we can calculate that as a loss. Obviously, the numbers would change. Right. Hopefully, businesses are doing better than that.
Yes, right.
And then fewer than 35 full-time employees. And the reason for that is we really wanted to focus on smaller businesses. Though some of the restaurants that are small businesses have a lot of employees that might hit that number, we tried to focus on really making sure we kept it at that, and also keeping it under $1.5 million in annual revenue. Because like I said, I love the Amazons in town, I love the big companies. Those companies deserve some breaks. I think the federal government helped them out a ton, and I want the local government, this is what Westboro is trying to do, is help those businesses stay vibrant and healthy in town.
Sure. And just to be clear, that's 35 full-time equivalents.
Equivalents,
so,
yes.
Right. So, yeah. So for folks that are wondering if they would qualify, that that is different than obviously just the employees. So that's good to know.
Yep.
And there is a component here, just being in good standing with the town. What does that mean?
It just basically means that you're up on your taxes. There are no code violations. If you happen to be a restaurant, there's no fire, any issue that might be a safety issue, anything the town wants you to fix. Basically, it's a way to make sure that if there's an issue, we get that resolved before we hand out cash to someone. I think it's fair.
Excellent. And so if a business has some open matters with the town, can they still apply if they're actively working to close that out?
They absolutely can apply.
And
it would have
include that in their application to explain where they're at and what the situation is?
And the town is great. I know from my office directly, you can come to me directly if there's a problem with the town, and I will help get you to the right places to hopefully resolve those issues, because they facilitate either a payment plan or something that can help us get in the right place. That's important to try, and we don't want to see businesses leave because they don't know what to do.
Sure.
That's my biggest my biggest concern when I do stuff. So
sure. And so the grant is intended, you mentioned this, so to cover things like marketing, maybe utility, employee wages. Is that correct?
That's the nice side of this. Is it's a very unlike most grants that are very directed towards buying a particular item or something particular for your business. This one is very open. It's basically free cash. Once you show you have a loss during that period, so we can justify giving it to you, you can use it towards a utility payment. You could use it towards paying back your PPE loans. It could be marketing to get yourself back on your feet. It could be that extra employee that gets you a day off or helps you get on a busy time,
Sure.
get through the schedule. So it's really, that's what makes this so great is it's cash in hand and it doesn't handcuff the business to what they have to use it for.
Okay, great.
And it can spread across a number of areas if
Sure.
you wanted to sprinkle it across your business.
Sure, and so I know applications are actively being requested. This is that open period. It started in December, and when does that period end?
We're going to end on February 28th.
Okay.
Hoping to have, right now we have 13 grants total out there. We have $65,000. If we handed out all $5,000 grants,
Yep.
there'd be 13 of those to go out. And my mission is to give out all 13 of those. I don't want any, this money
Sure.
goes away at the end of the year because it is
Yes.
ARPA money. So it is, it's important that we find businesses that need this and assist them to get whatever this paperwork in. I will go out and sit down with people if they need help filling out. The application
Right.
is very, we try to keep it a very simple lift, but I understand that people are busy and they
Sure.
sometimes might have problems or questions. But that's part of my role is I will literally sit down with people and fill out the paperwork almost with you and kind of go through what you need
Sure.
to make your
To make it-
application as successful as
Sure.
I can make it.
And you mentioned actually an important point. We sort of glossed over this as we were introducing this. The funding source for this program is not from a raise and appropriation or any sort of borrow. If you can talk about that.
Yeah, this is federal dollars through the American. Can you help me with this?
Yeah, the ARPA, American Rescue Recovery Act. ARPA.
Thank you.
Protection Act. It's ARPA.
ARPA, yes. I'm
Yes.
going to call it ARPA because
Yep.
I'm bad with acronyms.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it is federal money, so
Yep.
there's no cost to the taxpayer here locally. And it's an opportunity for us to find federal funds to give directly to funnel directly into the town, which only helps the town. When those businesses grow, there's tax money, there's meals taxes, there's things that come back to us that are what makes this town function. And
Right.
we want more of that.
Right.
We want more healthy businesses to keep the town growing and being the great place it is to live and
Right.
continue being that.
Right, and just as a reminder for the public, so the ARPA funds really sort of fell under the jurisdiction of the select board, but went through a very prescriptive process with our town manager and her team. The town hired a consultant that was supported at through the select board and to make sure that we were compliant with all the kind of audit procedures that we were making, however funds were allocated, that they were in line with all the federal requirements around ARPA. And so this component of money came out of that, and it's a way, obviously, in which the town can give back directly to its businesses. So it's a great program. We've done a lot of really interesting things with our ARPA funds.
Yes.
And that information is all available on our town's website. But this is just one of those elements, which is great.
Yeah.
So there is a prioritization of and a criteria basically. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of how a business could score higher
Yep.
in that process and what the criteria are?
Well, we find it's very important to have some kind of a scoring mechanism because if we got more than the 13 applications coming forward, we'd have to have some way to give the grant money away without being impartial at the
Yeah.
same moment because no one wants to give money to someone that's been here forever versus a new business that feels left out. So,
Yep.
so we've created a rubric for our scoring, and it comes down to basically 4 categories. First one is your loss during the pandemic. So we talk about if you lost up to 5 to 10%, it was 15 to 20, and then it went up from there. And you got more points for the larger the loss you had,
Sure.
obviously. And that's to trying to once again find the businesses that need the most help and try and put the money directly in their hands. The other things we look at is the location of your business. If you're a storefront, a brick and mortar store, you get first floor. You're paying different.
And what's the logic there?
I think that you want to help those businesses. I think got more affected during the pandemic, where offices went remote, and a lot of these businesses continue to function,
Sure.
quote unquote, as normal from
right.
home. Where if you were a barber shop or a beauty salon or a florist, there were times where you physically couldn't be in your building, and if you can't be in your building, there's
Sure.
no way
or it was
to.
one customer
Yeah.
at a time, and so there's
So
a
remote
lot of,
dentistry
right,
and things
right.
wasn't quite there for us yet.
Right, exactly.
So I think it's important to have kind of to have the storefront be something that kind of shows that we want to have a walkable downtown that you
Sure.
can enjoy and walk into a store and helping those businesses stay afloat and alive. Those small businesses
Okay.
is incredibly important. The other things we looked at were the business district being located downtown. Being located downtown is important, obviously, in the recovery. Prior to the recovery and during the middle of the pandemic, if people walked downtown, there were a lot of empty shops down there. And, knock on wood, luckily right now, we are pretty full. Not full, but we're getting there. And downtown is full of great businesses that are down there. So, emphasizing that area is an important piece of the community is important. It was as part of the recovery from the pandemic. Downtown was the focus of the recovery because of the loss of business.
So two components really kind of to that downtown location. One is the kind of the physical storefront, kind of first floor, and then it's just being in that business district. Do you recall, not to put you on the spot, how far that the business district and the downtown overlay extends?
I believe, don't quote me on the exact parameters of it, but I believe it basically goes from like the Credit One Bank on Central One Bank on South Street, just beyond the library, kind of right on the edge of the library there on East Main Street, and just down around the CVS someplace. I don't know the exact, and it does have some funny little in cuts and jars and things because you don't realize.
Well, there's a lot of businesses in that catchment. So, and again, it's not to say that you have to be in there. It's just one of the elements of the rubric.
It gives you an extra point.
Right, exactly. So you could be at the Julio's Plaza, for example, and
still qualify for this program. Yes, absolutely. It's just, like I said, the focus on downtown was important, so we just tried to give those businesses an extra little something. And then the other piece was longevity. Because this grant, you can be opened as of January 1st, 2020. So someone that opened their business on, late December of 2019, and walked into a. Thank goodness you're still here. If you managed to open your business on January 1st and of 2020 and you're still here, that's great. But we want to make sure that the business has been here longer. We want to hold on to businesses. We love new businesses. We don't want to exclude them. But I think we put a 5 and a 15-year to give points for businesses that have been here longer, because we are blessed here in Westboro to have some businesses that have been sitting in downtown for 40 years, 20 years, 30 years, 1963, the jewelry shop, Page Jewelers. You don't want to lose those businesses. Those are the heart of your town, but also you love to see new stuff like Cha-Cha Beans and those kind of places come in that really bring some life to the downtown. So it's been great to see those things happen.
Excellent. And again, there's not criteria in terms of the type of business, right? So it doesn't matter. I mean, again, the rubric kind of guides how you're going to score, but you could really be kind of any type of business.
Right. It's like I said, the biggest scoring, it comes down to the loss of revenue. And I would assume that, once again, assuming, I don't like to assume anything, but looking back at the pandemic, barbershops, florists, things that physically, when the state came in and said you can't be in your facility, you can't have people, those places, I'm guessing lost money. I'd have to look at their paperwork to see that, and that's why we asked for the proof.
Right.
But and we want to help those businesses.
Right.
That's really the key ingredient.
Okay, great. Okay, so the application period closes February 28th. How many pages is the application, Mark?
I think it's 4. So it's really simple. It's really asking about your.
Got a copy of it?
I got a copy here, and you can find a copy, as I will say, on the EDC, on the town website, under community development and economic development, as well as there was an article in the Community Advocate this week, and I'm out pushing this any place that anyone that wants to talk about this. I will set up a 30-minute sit down on Zoom. I'll come to your office and kind of go through this. I want this to be a successful program, and I'd love to see people having the ability to save their business or grow their business out of this. Would be awesome.
Sure, and Mark, we'll make sure that our friends at Westboro TV make sure your email and your contact information is available as part of this presentation. Okay, and so if folks have any questions, we'll show this on the screen. There's a QR code you can hone in on that will bring you right to the grant information. And before we close out, Mark, speaking of kind of grants and money, I believe there's an article on the annual town meeting warrant that pertains to economic development.
Yes, I won't speak to the entire warrant because it's outside.
No,
a little
no,
bit's outside
no,
of my what I
just
do.
your
But
piece,
my
right?
piece of it is annually since the economic development since 2021, the Economic Development Committee and Economic Development Department of Westboro has had a small business assistant grant program that helps new businesses coming to town with up to a $5,000 grant. I just actually started doing some research on this project. We have given out 49 small business grants since 2021, thanks to the town, and it's fantastic.
Yep.
And I can happily say that I've only seen one of those businesses no longer existing in town. So to say that we've given money in the right places,
Yeah, and they've
it's a
stayed.
good
Yeah,
place. So
sure.
this warrant article, what it allows is a $65,000 budget earmark for the Economic Development Committee to continue this relationship.
Sure.
And what it allows me to do is walk into a business that's about to open, expand, doing something exciting, and say, hey, the town loves what you're doing,
Yep.
the town wants you to be here, and here's how we're going to support
Sure.
you. It's $5,000. It's not $1 million, so
Yep.
it's not going to make or break a
Yeah.
company's day.
Sure.
But sometimes it just feels nice to know
Sure.
the town when you're a sole proprietor in a one-person operation, and someone comes in and says, "We want to help."
Sure.
It feels good,
Sure.
makes you feel like part of the community, and that's really what I want. I want businesses to be part of the community because they fund so much stuff in this town. I mean, you look at you're part of so many the Rotary and all
Yeah.
these, and they give money to you see the same.
Yep.
Local businesses giving money to every charity, and that's what shows the businesses love the community, and I want the community to show that love back
Sure.
from the town.
Sure,
So,
absolutely. And just to be clear, this the grant program we're talking about now is over and above the ARPA. ARPA is its
yes.
own
This
specific.
is the ARPA is a
Right.
one-time grant,
Right.
but the small business grant is a recurring grant
Right.
that happens quarterly
Right.
Through the Economic Development Department. Again,
Right.
a very simple application that I'd be happy to sit down and talk to someone about at any point.
Sure, and the article in the Tell Me is, I don't want to say it's pretty straightforward, but we've seen this article. It's almost like a recurring article.
Yes.
And that revenue comes from the billboards, is
Yes.
my understanding.
It used to. I believe there's some funding changes. I don't quite understand. Once again, the budget stuff gets
Yep.
a little outside of my
Yep.
pay grade.
Yep.
But I knew originally that did come from the electronic billboards, and I think now it's changed the way the funding kind of comes down.
Sure.
But the money still, in theory, would come from
Right.
those electronic billboards.
Right, and so, this isn't money, again, that we're borrowing or we're using free cash for. But,
Right. No, and it's
so-
a great program. And like I
Good.
said, when you see businesses and you're able to hand them some money to help out and put up some
Well,
new
even
flooring.
signage. Right?
Signage.
I mean, signage is very expensive, and what a great way to kind of say, well, geez, I had a budget for this, and now potentially I'm going to get.
Or if
this
there's a
grant.
problem with something, we can come in and help.
Sure.
If there's something that might be a code issue or something that needs to be updated, we can come in instead of a business, going, how am I going to
Yep.
fix this problem? I can come in
Gonna
after,
help.
and I work with those other departments. So when the health and fire are out doing their inspections and find issues that
Mm-hmm. Sure.
need to be updated, I'm able to come in after the fact with that grant program and say, hey, let's keep you in town, let's keep you functioning, and
Great.
I think it's important. It's
Great.
it's an important job to keep everyone, knowing the town wants them to be here.
Sure.
So.
So, Mark, let's put all the grants aside.
Yep.
If we're if I'm a business looking to locate in Westboro,
Yes.
obviously you're a resource to them, that business owner. Talk a little bit about the Community One Stop kind of program
Yeah.
that we have here, and why we set that up and how it works.
Yeah, the Community One Stop program is amazing, actually. And once again, it's something that when you look around, and I'm part of some regional groups, there's not many towns doing things like this. We meet every Wednesday from 2 to 3:30 in the Great Hall above the Fours building. And what it allows is businesses to come in and bring forward their plans before they go officially to the planning board or the zoning or wherever they got to start their process. And we help them start their process.
Okay.
They get to sit down with the DPW, engineering, fire, police, building, planning, conservation, sustainability, economic development, and each one of those departments. I might have missed someone. If I
Yeah.
did, I'm very sorry. You guys are all awesome. And really let that business know, hey, there's going to be an issue with how do I turn my fire truck around in there? Or where does that butt against some conservation
Sure.
land? And then before they go to planning, they don't hit a hiccup 6 months down the road. They walk in knowing this is the plan.
Yeah.
The plan should work. Planning might ask for some changes. As always,
Sure.
these things come up when questions come. but it really gives businesses a great step up to go forward and keep projects going forward and know that we're not trying to nickel and dime people out of a project, that we want these projects to go forward and be successful. So it's, we have them weekly, and we are booked most of the times. Most weeks we are booked, which is good news for the town, which means people want to locate here and they want to build and they want to fix. And it's a great way to get an idea that your project can work without having to invest in the planning board and figure out that it's not feasible.
Attorneys and engineers, right? You might have to make an initial investment to get to that meeting to be prepared for it, but at least you hopefully it sounds like you walk out with a sense of how viable is my plan, or how much more do I have to do.
This project is going to happen, or this is outside the scope of what the town would allow because of land use or zoning or whatever it might be, conservation. It's really a great resource that the town has, and I'd love anyone that has questions. I am happy to sit down with any business owner in town, someone looking to locate, expand. You know, I want to see people and why they want to be here and what they want to do in town and help navigate those roads with them. So
excellent. All right, Mark. Well, thank you so much. Lots of information today on economic development, and really appreciate you coming forward. So, folks, don't forget to apply. The deadline is fast coming up, February 28th.
Yep.
And you don't want to miss this window of opportunity. So get in touch with Mark, fill out the application, and see where it goes, right? It's a great investment of your time for potentially, up to $5,000.
Yeah, and helping keep our businesses going in Westboro strong. So thank you very much, Shelby.
Thanks so much, Mark. All right, and I'll be right back with a quick update on the budget. Hi, and welcome back. Just wanted to close out this episode of the 01581 with a quick update on the budget discussions going on for fiscal year 2025. I know we just started calendar year 2024, but now is that active planning time for all town departments and boards and committees as we consider the FY25 budget. So as a reminder, and as is required, the budget hearing took place. It was a public hearing on January 23rd. That was before the select board. Our town manager presented the FY25 budget. You can watch that recording through Westboro TV, and I encourage you to do so. Yesterday we had the budget summit, so that was January 25th, and that convened the select board and the finance committee in one meeting. I love the budget summits because it really allows the both of these key boards to sit and hear presentations from our town manager, the finance department, fire, police, school. And yesterday we heard from recreation, and we have an opportunity, depending upon what's going on with particular budgets or warrant articles, capital projects, we have an opportunity to hear from those department heads and really ask in-depth questions as needed. So again, that meeting was a public meeting. You're able to watch that, and I would encourage you to do so. I would encourage you to watch the budget hearing on the 23rd meeting of the select board, and then watch that budget summit. You can view all the budget documents on the town's website and have those as sort of your backup information, and then just listen to the presentation. I think it will give you a really good sense and a framework of where the town is heading and its current status. So just some quick highlights. Again, you can review all of this on your own time, but the town remains in a very good financial position. It maintains a AAA bond rating, which helps us when we go for borrowing, allows us to get some of the best rates around, and so that's good news. We have free cash, and our debt management strategies are working effectively. So the budget's as presented. The town as a whole is increasing its, the FY25 budget will increase by 6.62% for a total budget of $147 million and change. And the school budget is 5.44% increase for $66,900,000 and change. Note for both of those, for the school in particular, only $12,000 of that is not related to salary. So that was an interesting point made by the superintendent yesterday at the budget summit. This projected increase is estimated to result in a $979 estimated increase to the single-family tax bill. So that's $979. Important to note in that 6+% increase is that 22% of that is being driven by the community center. So that's bringing on a project coordinator or program coordinator, excuse me, to manage the programming in that building, custodial staff, and other expenses related to that. So $147 or about $150 of that $979 is attributed directly to the community center. Items not yet factored into that budget increase and are outstanding are our waste management contract, town's insurance budget. We always get that information much closer to town meeting. The Assabet Valley assessment, the fire union contract, youth and family services. We've talked about how the town is in active negotiations with Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services to collaborate with them to support our youth and family service program, and of course state aid. So those numbers initially came out from the state, and we just heard late yesterday that the cherry sheet numbers have decreased. So we'll be following that closely, certainly through the town manager's office, select board, and finance committee. So that's an update on the budget. Again, you can go right to the town manager's page on the website under departments, view all the budget documents for FY25. Encourage you to follow along and become prepared for annual town meeting, which will be in March. More to come on all of that. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the 01581. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and be well.